Hello and welcome back. Now I'm going to address the cults, IUIC. I have a message for you. It's been crazy because I have been talking to a lot of people who claim to be, the Hebrew Israelites and things of that nature. But either they didn't have permission, to speak and defend their faith openly, or, maybe they're just too, lower ranking, or maybe they're afraid. I'm not really sure. I don't really care, to be honest with you, because the facts still remain. IUIC is nothing more than a cult, a denomination, New Ageism, if you will. We've seen this before. I pray that it will die out, disband, and people will come out of it and, latch on to truth, the truth of the Bible. All right, so let's get into it. Their founder, Nathaniel, says that I guess he says he can prove or he claims to be, some of the descendants from the transatlantic, slave era or the sub-Sahara slave era. Nobody can trace that this day. Nobody. We can barely trace back, I would say at most maybe 5 generations. And everything else will have to come from the census. So if you cannot, if the census, and I forget exactly when the census actually started, because I want to say it was well after, maybe like 1800s or something to that effect. So again, the point here, nobody can trace back their lineage to the boat, to their great grandpa and grandma. So anyway, but that ain't really my point. My point is this. What happened prior to that? Because, see, that's what you fail to understand as well. So if you claim to be, the Hebrew Israelites, from the Bible, from the Old Testament, you're going to have to do a lot more explaining. What happened, in that land after the remnant was released, first century? What happened to the people? Where did they go? Where did every slave go? Some went to Egypt. Some went all over the world. So if you don't know where everybody went, you cannot claim, to be a descendant. You can't. It's impossible. Anybody with logic, reason, understanding secular history, understanding biblical history, would never do that. But you, for some reason, and I think because you're cult members, they don't think of it, outside of what you propagate. Maybe they haven't woken up to that, but I'm here to wake them up. Wake up, people. Your guy is wrong. He cannot prove the things that he preaches and teaches. It's impossible. All right. So, okay. Let me give you an example. Just look in your secular history right now. In 632, in North Africa, Islam spread it so strong in that area that they were selling people and goods. You couldn't even get into that particular region or part of the region, because it was ruled by Islam. So they decided who traded what and who and all that good stuff. All right. Go a little bit further down, 750. In Ghana, the empire ruled from like 750 through 1200, and they ruled so mightily. I don't even know if that's a word, but it's so strong that they ruled from the east to the west. Okay, so they then controlled all of the trades, including humans, from the east to the west of Africa. All right, that's a large territory. Okay. Let's see, from the 1200s to the 1400s, that's when they themselves converted to Islam. So, Islam became the dominant, culture, religion, at that particular time. And then they were in control once again of like the slave trades and things of that nature. So you could have gone anywhere, at that point. Now, late 1482 to about 1600s, then there's the Portuguese, okay, and they were the ones that controlled and enslaved people. So what are we talking about? We don't have any, almost 2,000-year-old people walking around to tell us, oh, okay, I descended from this, then the third. No. So that's impossible. But I digress. So now the so-called Hebrew Israelites will go to the Bible and they'll point and claim to be the remnant that somehow remain together and never intermixed or intermingle with any other culture. Somehow they defied the laws given by their own God, saying not to multiply with each other to preserve the lineage. So either way, they're liars. They either disobey the Lord, and they just can't prove that they are the people of the Old Testament by secular history or biblically. So to be honest with you, anybody can say that they were from the nation in the Bible if they wanted to. Doesn't mean that it's true. I call blasphemy, blasphemy, blasphemy. You guys are really, really proud and arrogant and egotistical. The New Testament is the only law, and I do mean the only law, where a person can compare their life against the law and see if they stack up and are, walking according to the will of the Lord. That's it. The Old Testament does not do that. The Old Testament is not a law where anybody, any race, any gender can trace back, compare, find a resemblance, a breadcrumb, a description of, a lineage, a path to heaven, a path to Jesus, a path to righteousness. You will only find the same arrogant, racist, prideful attitudes that got Judah and Israel taken captive in the first place. I see these guys like the deacon from deconstruction mode, and I see guys like Hassad from Hassad Sakari. And they use the apocrypha, and that's your trouble, brothers. That is your problem. You need to throw the apocrypha away and stay only within the Bible. And you need to read that properly, like an actual study from Old Testament. No, actually go from the very beginning. Patriarchy, Mosaical, and then graduate to the New Testament, because you guys are trying to go back into slavery. That's what the Old Testament does. It puts one back into slavery. So, the only thing that I can tell you at this point, is it's just ridiculous that we live in a day and age to where you don't have to prove things anymore. A person can literally make up a religion right now and say, yeah, that was me. Back in Adam and Eve. I was Seth. And so therefore, it's just crazy. It's crazy. It's really crazy. So yeah, I'm trying to wake up the Hebrew Israelites. It is not about your skin. It's not about your race. It's not about your nationality. It's not about where you come from. Because again, if that's the case, why aren't you on your land? If you guys are the so-called Hebrew Israelites, etc., where's your land promise? Why aren't you on your land? Why is it being controlled by somebody else? Huh? Oh, are you not having the favor of God anymore? Is God upset with y'all? You got a lot of stuff to answer if that's the case. And like I always say, God never did away with any of the Old Testament. So if you're trying to be amenable to the Old Testament, you must do it all. You must be in the right location. You must have the Levitical priest to make atonement for you. You cannot hang on to grace and mercy under the Old Testament. You can't. Those are two different laws. They conflict. You can't take Jesus backwards, and you can't take the Old Testament forward. I love you, but please wake up. Bye.